Let me just say, this tour was such an unexpected blessing. We definitely planned our way, but God directed our steps, and He brought us the unity that we needed and the encouragement of the gospel the churches needed. Even though we didn't see the thousands like Christafari is used to, we had a much more intimate time with a smaller audience. We flew out to California on Friday, October 23rd. We arrived in Miami. We drove 4 hours from there to Largo, Florida. We had a quick night's rest. Then we set up at Tabernacle of Tampa Bay for an evening outreach. The church heard Christafari was coming through Florida, and in 6 short days, they set up an event with a skate park, with inflatables, with local food trucks, 2 local artists, and then followed by a full concert with Christafari.
Casio! Alright, let's find it. We can't blend it. Okay, there it is right there. Reggae 1 and Reggae 2 and some ska. Let's do it. You ready? Just press that button and that's all we need, right? Yep, let's do it.
Their church is located right off of one of the main roads, so about 500 people trickled in and out through the night and got to hear the gospel message. And then here is a quick testimony by the pastor of the church, Pastor Scott.
I am 17 years old and I'm trying to grow dreadlocks. I'm completely into Rastafarianism. I'm praying over my pot, literally lifting it up, praying it over my pot. A year later, both of us, my friend from the Bahamas, we end up in prison. A bunch of drug charges. I end up with 15-year split sentence. What? So I do like 5 years in. I come into faith in prison. She sends me a Christafari tape or CD.
No way.
And I get in the chapel, I listen to it, I'm like, wow, there's actually people that love reggae music and they don't keep smoking marijuana. I'm like, maybe I don't have to keep smoking marijuana. So long story short, I do the 5 years, I get out, I end up becoming a pastor at a Calvary Chapel here. 2 years later, through weird stuff happening, became a pastor. It's been really cool to see that you guys for like, is it 30 years now?
31.
Have kept on going, but the sick joke in this whole thing is I said, like, before I was going to prison I was going to grow these dreads. I go to prison and I lose my hair. So I'm like, wait a minute.
Losing your head.
All I can think about is Bob Marley saying, gonna chase those crazy
balls.
And I'm like, no, I'm one of them. Like, what did you do? Like, in your sovereignty, you're like, it's
you can
comedy
still grow them
hour.
on your chin, though. You're good to go, man.
I can grow my chin, and I have a wig with a hat.
Okay.
So
Their setup and teardown crew was so awesome. Servants' hearts to the max. We were never in need for a moment there. Pastor Scott and his wife, they are so helpful. They are working a lot in Washington, D.C., and we pray that Christafari can accompany them one day to our nation's capital. The night wasn't over. We had a 3-hour drive from the west side back to the east side of Florida, and then we finally got to rest. Center Point Church in Naples, Florida. Here, we provided worship music for a good friend of ours, Pastor Bob Lenz. He's an evangelist and a motivational speaker. His message was about how we are all uniquely created by God, and he encouraged us all to take the Dignity Pledge that was recently featured in our new You Say music video. We hope to continue ministering with Bob and his ministry around the world. On a side note, a lot of our band members enjoy the Nintendo game Super Smash Bros. And wouldn't you know that this building had an entire room painted Super Smash Bros. By one of their youth members. Sammy, she was awesome. She is awesome. You are awesome. She has an amazing talent. And she was so excited by our excitement about that room that she actually painted a picture of us, shown here. Sammy, you got some mad skills. After this, we had no idea actually where we were staying or playing for the next few days. So our trust was definitely in the Lord. Then we got a call from Christafari's first sound engineer, Dave Jacobs.
We just played a set at Club Med here in Florida. This guy set it up. Introduce yourself.
Hello, David Jacobs. Pleasure.
DJ. Dude, you started working with us in what year?
I don't remember. I know it was early 90s.
Early 90s.
Early 90s, 91 or 2.
Yeah.
And someone just asked me what groups I had worked with.
Yeah, so after you worked with Christafari, go ahead.
And it all started with Christafari, but as God's path changes and leads you, I ended up working for, my next artist was a group named Joseph Hill and Culture. And then after him, I had the opportunity to work for Steel Pulse. And
Steel Pulse.
That relationship lasted about 8 to 10 years. I was the monitor engineer for Steel Pulse.
Oh my gosh.
And let's see, after that, it led to working for Lucky Dube. I ended up starting off as his
These are the legends right here. Joseph Hill, Culture, Steel Pulse, Lucky Dube.
Yeah, spent some years with Lucky and monitor engineer for Alpha Blondie.
Goodness gracious, I'm spinning around. My head's spinning.
So it all started with Mark, and almost 20 years later, I find myself hobnobbing with these famous people like Matthew McConaughey. Serious, true story.
I remember there have been times where I've been talking to you and you'd be like, you would call me at some low points.
That's right.
I remember when Lucky Dube died, that was a tough time for you.
Yes, I reached out to you. I always think about you through the years. That's why I'm so thankful that you came tonight.
Now you had an interesting experience. One time you called me from Ethiopia, of all places.
Did I call you when I was there?
You like, Mark, you wouldn't believe it. I went into Haile Selassie's bedroom.
That's true.
I went into Haile Selassie's bedroom and you wouldn't believe what I saw.
And I literally was given a tour in Haile Selassie's bedroom. I saw his bathroom. Like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is where the guy showered every morning and went to the bathroom. And like, he's a human being too, right? Especially so. But what made the biggest impression on me were the crosses in Haile Selassie's bedroom, and the fact that Haile Selassie was a Christian too, and the fact that Haile Selassie loved the Lord. That's what I walked away from with the biggest impression.
And I'll never forget, you called me saying, Mark, you wouldn't believe what I saw. The first thing he saw every time he opened up his eyes in his bedroom was a picture of Jesus. And you said, Mark, it's an American white picture of Jesus. I was freaking out, man. Because he's like, the Rastas would like, they would go like ballistic if they saw that. That was instrumental in helping us understand that this guy really loved Jesus. We know he was friends with Billy Graham and others, and he was called the defender of the faith. He was a Christian. Fascinating life, fascinating story. Thank you so much, Dave, for sharing that and for sharing the love of God with these other artists. It's kind of a missionary, if you will, in the trenches.
They offered us free lodging and expense if we played a show. So the time spent there was an unexpected blessing. The evening of our second night, we got to be the entertainment for the entire resort, handing out free CDs to all those who participated in dancing while we brought them the good news in song. We pray for the words of the songs to have penetrated their hearts and spirits for those that were present. The following morning was another 3.5-hour drive to Jacksonville, Florida. A quick history lesson. There was a 1946 building that was bought out by a man named Tony in 1995. This guy wanted a cool music venue / coffee shop where Christians could congregate and have a good time without feeling the pressures to have to drink at a music venue. Murray Hill Theater in Jacksonville, Florida has been a regular stop for many of the Christian artists that you may know today. Many big bands in the early 2000s got their start at places like this venue back in the 90s.
Here at the Murray Hill Theater. This is Tony Nasrallah. Man, we've been playing here since 1995, 96, I think maybe. It's a blessing to be back, and we'll be back.
Yeah,
Christafari
in the house.
Yes!
That evening, Christafari performed alongside with Nicholas Ian Carter and Man Apart, two super awesome bands that I would highly suggest checking out for some passionate and creative, good sounding music.
Take me back to when you showed me grace, the moment when I heard you say my name, and I know who I was. I'm covered by your blood, you know where I've been. Take me back to when there was no fear, when my faith wasn't shook and my vision was clear, and I know who I was. I'm covered by your blood and free of my sin. Show me how to live again.
Many people rededicated their lives to Christ and were encouraged during these hard times by the message Mark Moore shared from stage. The next day was Halloween. Ooh, and we were excited to drive 3 hours to Tampa, Florida for a trunk or treat event that Crossover Church had put together. This church is a very special place for Christafari, not just because Mark Moore has been friends with the lead pastor, Tommy Urban D, for many years, but also because this is our dancer, Nikita's home church, that she was serving in for 8 or more years. This church is where she met us and eventually left to join Christafari full time. It was so awesome to see Nikita in her element and to meet so many of the people that have poured into her life and helped shape the amazing woman of God she is today. While the kids went through the lines of open trunks, grabbing all the candy with their parents, at the end they received hand sanitizer and other goodies from the church. And Christafari was set up on the side of the building, performing a few sets, providing good music, and a few gospel invitations from Mark. The next morning, we performed worship in the main sanctuary for all 3 services, and a 4th one in the evening.
Ooh, welcome back to Crossover Church. Yes, I love this place, and they love this city and the world. This is where Nikita came from. We always call it the hip-hop church. This is Lucy. She's the pastor's wife. She's a foundation, a pillar of this church. This is Pastor Tommy, aka Urban D, which stands for Urban Disciple. That's right, that's right. I've known this guy for about 25 years. True man of God. Check it out. They even have crossover cola. And you can't say crossover without saying cross. Let's go inside. Look at the tagging. They got tagging. Our merch is set up on this wood floor. This wood floor was made for breakdancing demonstrations. That's right. That's why it's here. Bet you didn't know that. They got an incredible kids ministry. This is the main auditorium. This place used to be a Toys R Us. Now it's a Hope Market. Okay, would you go to church with a DJ? When we came out here for our first time, that's when I met Nikita. And I'll never forget it. And I asked her where she was from, and she said Holland. I said, no, where's your family from? She said Suriname. I said, Fawaka, you fitibum. And then we eventually talked her into joining us as a dancer. And then she started singing. And now she's playing bass, singing and dancing. And it's a crucial part of the ministry. So this is where it all started, right here. Crossover Tampa. If you're in the area, come on over.
Pastor Mark brought a gospel message and prayer to salvation during every service. They are all available online to watch. It was such a blessing to be there as the church celebrated their 1500th baptism and 10 years within their building. The next day we headed home in time for the election. Touring in this COVID era has been so different than any other time in our 3 decades of ministry. The crowds are smaller, the shows are fewer and further between, but the impact is still tangible. The Lord has called us to preach the gospel in season and out of season. And many people believe right now that this is out of the season. This is now more reason to go and preach. To all those who have ears to hear, and any promoter, church, backyard that will have us, we would like to go. Please pray that the Lord will continue to open up opportunities for us to share the good news of Jesus Christ with this nation and around the world. Thank you. And don't forget to remember the reason for the season with Christafari's newest Christmas album, Reggae Christmas 2, Reason for the Season, available now on all major music platforms and YouTube. Join us in all these classic Christmas songs in a reggae style. Merry Christmas, everyone.